From Bosstrack, it's Her HypeSquad, a show about amazing women who've made incredible strides as leaders in their industry. They're here to support you in your leadership growth, to encourage you and hype you up as part of your Hype Squad. Hello, and welcome back to a new episode of Her Hype Squad with Bosstrack. I'm your host, Michelle Harris. This week, I talk with Melissa Jones about leading after trauma, the power of taking solo vacations, being brave while afraid, inner peace, and owning your power. This was such a vulnerable and insightful conversation that you're guaranteed to get something life-changing from it. But before we get into our conversation, let me tell you a little bit about Melissa. Melissa Jones serves as Vice President, Senior Business Banking Specialist for Enterprise Bank and Trust, headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri. She helps corporations, LLCs, sole proprietors, and nonprofits with tailor-fitting a capital and cash management strategy to reach their business goals. With over 22 years of banking experience, she has helped many clients achieve success in their company's business endeavors. In 2019, Melissa was recognized as one of St. Louis's most inspiring and influential leaders and professionals. She was also recognized in 2020 by St. Louis Small Business Monthly as one of St. Louis's most admired business advisors. She is a transformative leader with results excelling in strategic planning, business development, leadership development, and sales skills. Melissa is also the visionary and CEO of Living Healed Ministries. She is an international best-selling author of Claim Your Comeback, Begin Your Journey to Healing and Wholeness, where readers learn how to create their own action plan on healing from traumas that have held them back, setting healthy boundaries with toxic individuals, and applying their faith to the healing process. Surviving and thriving after abusive relationships, raising 3 small children on her own while having a demanding corporate career, these are all things Melissa overcame to claim her comeback. By applying tools she learned in her corporate career to her personal goals, she was able to heal, evolve, and become a more fulfilled version of herself. Melissa is the mother of 3 adult children, a consortium for leadership development, Harvard School of Business graduate, currently as a board director for 3 organizations, and holds memberships in multiple professional organizations in the region. She believes in the importance and impact of managing business banking relationships with a spirit of excellence and client-centered service. Melissa is a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, the Lynx, and enjoys traveling, spending quality time with family and friends, and has a passion for horseback riding. If you enjoy my conversation with Melissa, make sure you subscribe to our channel and help more people find us by sharing this episode with others or by leaving a review. Or subscribe to our weekly newsletter filled with things we found that we're excited about and we're inspired by, along with valuable leadership advice to watch, listen to, or read. It's a little bit of joy for your inbox each Monday. You can subscribe at www.thebosstrack.com/weeklyjoy. Now, without further delay, let's get into my conversation with Melissa Jones. Welcome, Melissa. We're so happy to have you here on the Her Hype Squad with Bosstrack podcast. I'm hoping you're having a good morning so far.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Michelle. I appreciate this opportunity to share whatever wisdom I can share with your audience. So thank you.
Thank you. We did provide the listeners your background before we got started here, but could you provide a little informal intro, who you are, just so the audience hears it from you?
Absolutely. So, as you know, my name is Melissa Jones, and I come from very humble beginnings. I was started off my young life in a smaller city called East St. Louis, Illinois. I'm the first in my immediate family to get a college degree, go on to grad school, climb that corporate ladder, if you will. And so I love just pouring back into people, pouring back in the community so they can see that whatever you want to be, you can be. It's possible. You just have to learn how to navigate those roadblocks that come in our lives.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't know if we talked about where you are originally from because my husband is from that same area.
Wow.
So interesting. Yeah, he's from a little town outside of East St. Louis, but in Illinois. So that's,
Okay.
yeah, small
We'll have
world.
to talk offline. Very
Yeah.
small world.
Um, so I'm really interested in our conversation today because we're talking about trauma. And I love that in today, over time, it has become less stigmatized and people are very much more open to talking about trauma, understanding what it is, and knowing that it can take a lot of different forms. So I appreciate you coming on to kind of talk about this topic and get into some general leadership advice. And you have so much great leadership experience. I'm looking forward to digging in.
As well, Michelle. I'm excited and happy to share.
Well, with that said, we're talking about personal trauma and leadership. And when we talked before, that was something that you were very passionate about and wanted to talk about. And no need to go into specifics, but I know you had your own personal experience with personal trauma and coming back to be a strong leader. Can you tell me about that time in as much words? I don't mean to dig right in, but in as many words as you'd like to share.
Absolutely. So I went through a big breakup, and we were weeks away from getting married, and that relationship ended abruptly, and it was very traumatic. And in the midst of the trauma, I still had to be a leader, right? Just because something happened in my life, my company still has expectations for me. I still have goals. The team still has goals. So I had to learn how to still lead while healing from the trauma. And so, again, I'm so excited to talk about, um, hopefully, give the audience some tips on how to do that.
What point in your career did that happen? Like, what level of leadership were you at?
I was at a senior leadership position when that happened.
Okay, so the stakes were high for you
Very
to
high.
get back into. Okay. So, well, let's dig into it. So, when you, I mean, I don't know if you were able to take some time off, but when you came back, how did you come back and really maintain focus and still be able to motivate your team in that situation or after that situation?
Well, fortunately for me, it happened during not too long ago at a time where the world was still navigating its way through COVID.
Mm.
So, fortunately enough, we were working remotely. So, I was able to remove myself just from the environment and get away by myself, which I had never done, like go on vacation, if you will, a semi vacation. And so I did that, and I went away for 10 days. However, I did work still because I had the flexibility, but it was good to just be in a different environment by myself where I can just really start that healing process. And in that time, I learned so much about me, learned so much about the strength that I did have. I learned to uh live in my truth, and that was to know that I could be afraid and brave at the same time. I believe sometimes we as people, especially leaders, we feel like, we always have to be brave. We always have to show up and be like top of our game. And I realized in that moment that I could do both. I can be brave, but I can still be afraid in this traumatic moment, traumatic season, if you will, of my life.
So you were able to get away. Are there some things that you did while you were away that you attribute to the growth and the self-realization that you mentioned?
It was just time for me to not hear from anyone else except for myself. I believe in God, so whatever higher power people believe in. I think just again, it's natural as a people. we tend to call our friends and, everybody has their input, and that can kind of muddy the waters, if you will. And I believe it is critical, especially if you are a leader and still have to lead while healing through a traumatic event, that you allow those waters to stay as clear as can be. And so I knew I needed to just get away with just me and God, and do start that healing process, like literally jump in. And again, that allowed me to say, yes, I can be brave and afraid, and know that my healing from that traumatic event, it really started in my head and in my heart. And as we have this discussion, I think about one of the Star Wars movies. I'm gonna use this example because I love it. There was the scene before Luke had to go into the cave to eventually fight Darth Vader. And before he entered the cave and knew what he was about to walk into, he's talking to Yoda, and Luke asked Yoda, "What's in there?" Because it was a dark cave. And Yoda's response blew me away. He says, "Only what you take with you."
Mm.
And that meant, and also Yoda told him he wouldn't need, like he had carried that belt with all those things on it. He said, and you won't need that. And for me, that's really deep, because he was saying you have to take what's in your head and in your heart, and that's how you will win this battle that you're about to walk into. And Luke had no clue. So that's what I had to do. It was like me walking into a dark cave, and I could only take what I had in me in order to overcome that trauma, that traumatic experience, and win that battle.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, Luke won. He ended up beating Darth Vader. So
Oh, you know what? I don't watch Star Wars, but from the pieces that I do know, it just seems like there's so much philosophy built in, and maybe it's all around Yoda. I'm not sure, but he seems to be a very smart little character.
Yoda's very wise.
Yeah, that's so true. The power of the mind, what we focus on, and how to bring our mind back to the positive, or yeah, being able to look away from those experiences. And I it's so interesting. I like that you said about taking away all those voices, because it's so true. And I don't think there's any I don't mean anything bad by it. I think a lot of times our friends and family are trying to be helpful when they offer advice or thoughts, or
Yeah.
say whatever they're going to say, but it doesn't help you or the person healing, and trying to like get in your own head to know how to move beyond that.
Right, right. And I absolutely agree with you, Michelle. We give advice from our own experiences or what we believe we would do. And I've learned in going through my trauma that it's so good for us to say, you know what, I don't know how you feel, but how can I be a support? How can I
Mhm.
be there for you? Because
Yeah.
every situation is different. All of our psyches are different. So yeah, it's instead of saying, "Oh, I understand. Oh, let me know what you need," because honestly, I don't think people who have experienced trauma even know what they need in that moment.
Hmm.
They're trying to figure it out. So that's good. A good point that you brought up.
Did your team know what was going on? Like, how were you able? So you still had to work with them, right? So how did you navigate that part of it?
They did not. I because it was personal, I do try to separate
Okay.
personal from business. And for me, I believe the greatest example we could be for people is for them to find out something like that, meaning someone going through a traumatic experience and that person to say, wow, I didn't know until after the fact, because I believe it gives us a chance to witness, if you will, how we come to be the leaders that we are. And so for me, of course, after the fact and people found out, that was great for them to say, oh my goodness, I never knew, and that's being brave. That's being brave and afraid at the same time,
Yeah.
but people don't have to necessarily know that you're afraid. You do. I think we need to be honest with ourselves, but yeah, that's being brave.
Is there, when you came back and from that time away and went full-fledged back into being in your leadership role, is there anything that changed for you in the way that you led your team, or do you feel like you came back in basically the same way?
I'm pretty much empathetic person, and that's how I lead. And I don't lead like with an iron fist. I'm big on building relationships and building trust. And so I won't say necessarily, I will say I have much more empathy for others, because you never know what people are going through. And
Hmm.
so there are certain skill sets you have to have as being a leader. And one of those is just the courage to lead. And so there were 4 skill sets of courage that I utilize to lead. And they come from, I love Brene Brown. Shout out to
Mm.
Brene Brown. I don't know if there's anybody else out there who loves her, but one is rumbling with vulnerability, living into our values, braving trust, and learning to rise. And so when I came back, I guess full time, if you will, because I never really left, I was just away physically. I had to learn to still be vulnerable, because I'm sure questions were going to be asked. So I had to be vulnerable and rumble with that vulnerability, um, while still maintaining my values. I have 2 values that I live by. One is faith, and the other is peace. Faith, that is my balance. That's how I start my mornings. I start my mornings, well, first with a cup of coffee. I make my cup of coffee, and then I have devotion, and then I pray, and I start every morning like that, because that is like my foundation. And I jokingly, and I tell people, you want me to start my day off like that, because you don't know what you may get from me if I don't in the corporate space. But I do that. And then peace is my other value. So not meaning that we never have to deal with conflict. We never have to go through a season where it's like a valley season, but meaning that I can maintain peace while going through that season. So I'm big on that. I mean, emotions can run high in the corporate space, and I make sure that I maintain my peace. And that's just keeping balance, respecting people, living with integrity, having empathy for people, being a better listener versus just trying to listen to give feedback, braving trust. That is living in that truth. And that takes bravery. So when I was going through healing from my trauma, there was one side of me that was like, oh, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, because I think that was the survival side. Like, I really can't care right now because I have so many other um, things that I'm responsible for as a leader. But to still say, no, this is what happened to me. Like, this is real. And I had to acknowledge those feelings and emotions. And then the fourth one, learning to rise. But in me braving that trust, I still had to rise. I still had to lead. I still had to produce. So I love the 4 skill sets of courage by Brene Brown.
Yeah, I know Brene Brown knows her impact on people in this world, but she does come up so much in conversations I have, because I think she's the first person to really say things in a vulnerable enough way herself, and humble way for people to really like feel it and understand it and take it on themselves. Yeah, she has a magic to her. And
Yes.
I love when she comes up in conversations. I wanted to ask you a question about something you said, and that was about peace. And when things at work are crazy and tensions are high, and some people come in hot, besides be- besides being peaceful, is there something like you do or you could recommend to people on how to maintain that peace when you're working with people or in situations like that?
Yes, I believe it's just controlling your emotions, and I want the audience to know peace does not mean agreeing with someone that is saying something that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
It's not being a yes person, it's not being a people pleaser, but it is you not compromising your values, whatever that value is. And again, for me, faith is number one. I'm big on allowing my light to shine in whatever situation I'm in. So no matter if someone is yelling at me, no matter if someone is cussing me out, I will not allow someone else's action to change my values. I still will not demean that person. I still will not disrespect that person because that would be compromising who I am. And so I definitely wanted to express it's not agreeing if you disagree. It's simply just living in your truth, expressing your truth, but with empathy, with love, with respect. And you can do that and still get your point across, hold your ground, but you can do it in just a different way than I think, unfortunately, a lot of people in this world handle those situations.
Yeah, I mean, it is really easy when somebody comes in, if especially if you're talking about the extremes of like somebody and cussing you out, to not feel that energy to respond in the same way. And I think, a lot of what you do in the mornings and your devotion and some people might meditate. And I think like having that peace that brings such peace that it really I feel like that helps, alleviate that reaction to those situations. I don't know if you attribute that to you being able to do that.
Oh, totally. I totally have a foundation of biblical principles, if I can. And for my Bible scholars out there, I often, when I hear people being so judgmental, I always go back to the story of the lady that was about to be stoned. And Jesus walked up and said, "Let you who have not sinned throw the first stone." And that resonates with me because none of us are perfect. None of us. We've all done things, right? Things that we're not proud of, things that our parents aren't proud of. We've all done something. And I believe if we take the time instead of trying to be really judgmental about why maybe somebody reacted the way they did and look at that interaction or conversation from a place of empathy and understanding of maybe what has happened in their lives to cause them to do that, because it's more than likely some trauma and
Mhm.
people are still triggered. I believe that that can make that person so much better. And we're an example. I mean, I've had people in the corporate space watch situations happen with me and afterwards pull me into the boardroom and say, "Wow, how did you handle that so well?" And it gives me a chance to let them know how I was able to handle that. And so we are examples, whether we want to see it or not. And we can choose to be great examples or we can choose the latter. And I just choose to be a great example.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being a great example.
Thank
And
you.
you're right, you do learn, like, as leaders coming up, I mean, you learn from the good and you learn from the bad. You learn from the bad, not what not to do. But I think it's so much more powerful to learn from somebody that is going through it and understands how, because I think when you're, I don't mean to go off on this, but when you're watching somebody who has bad behavior, you're not going to handle it that way. But then you have to still find yourself, like, well, how is it that I do want to be, and what would that look like? But if you're watching somebody with the good behavior, good
Mhm.
responses, then you're learning in that moment, like, that's exactly how I want to respond to those
Right.
situations. So yeah, we could all use a lot more good leaders in the
Right.
world.
We can. And if we think about it, like when I look at this generation, sometimes I'm saddened because I see behavior that is just unfortunate. And I have grown children now, and we mold them as whoever the caretaker is. And so we have to do better ourselves so they will look at us and be like a mirror for us. So when I see certain things happening, in this generation, it doesn't shock me because I don't think we as adults are the best examples at times. So, yes,
Yeah, yeah,
people will be what they see, especially kids.
that's true. Very true. Do you have any advice for people that might be going through some kind of a traumatic experience themselves and they're having to work through that while also coming in to lead, and they might, be maybe newer in their leadership role. So they're still trying to manage, like, how do I lead and how do I deal with this, and not like just break down entirely.
Right. Absolutely. Um, First and foremost, you have to be truthful with yourselves. They
Mhm.
have to be. So if that truth is, I just don't have it right now to lead and you need to take time off, do that, because you're not only hurting yourselves, they're not only hurting themselves, they're hurting their team, their organization. So that's first and foremost. Live in your truth. You cannot, when you go through a traumatic experience, say, okay, but this is the expectation of me and I must do this, but you're still, it's like a tug of war and you're not getting anywhere. So, and you can't be stagnant. So, deal with your truth, take the proper steps. If you need to take time off, do that, and then come back and be ready to go. On the flip side, if someone can, definitely separate the leader from the personal experience. And what I mean by that, I love, love, love. There's a book by Amy Morin called 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. I think it's so easy for us to say, oh, do this, do that. We're so doers. Do this.
Yeah.
Oh, just do that. But I love her analogy because it's like what we don't do. So if you can juggle the two, make sure when you have to be that leader, definitely think about those things that leaders don't do that are mentally strong. And I can just go over a few. I actually have them here, but leaders don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. Now, I'm not saying if you feel like you need that moment with the violin and the cheese, go ahead. Take that moment because that's your truth, but you have to know that moment is going to have to be taken when you don't have to leave. So just be able to separate those two. You have to put on your leader hat, whether it's 8 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever. And then when you leave, all right, now let's put on this other hat if you need to time to feel sorry for yourselves. But when you're leading and you choose, because it's a choice, you choose to stay and lead while you're healing through your traumatic experience, you cannot waste time feeling sorry for yourselves. Don't give away your power. Mentally strong people avoid giving others the power to make them feel inferior or bad. And it's like, in order to hone these skills, it's like building a muscle. It's like going to the gym. I
Mm.
love working out and I see the benefits of that. Being mentally strong is the same thing. You have to work that muscle day in and out. Mentally strong people don't waste energy on things they can't control.
Mm.
Again, live in the truth. Yes, it happened. Yes, it did not feel good at all, but you can't control it. And so I believe when I say that statement, it makes me think about driving. There's a reason the front windshield of our vehicles are huge and the rearview mirror is so small. Yes, take a glimpse, look back, learn from it, but you have to move forward because you can't change it.
Mm.
So, um, let's see, what's another one? Don't worry about pleasing others.
Yeah.
We're not going to please everybody. You're just
Yeah.
not. There's people that I'm sure probably we all have haters. I think that's the word. Haters, you need them. Like, let them hate. You just don't become one.
Yeah.
But don't be fearful to take calculated risk. Leaders don't do that. You're a leader. You have to take the risk. You
Mhm.
don't want to be stagnant. So those are just a few, but yeah, those are just a few things to avoid and
Yeah.
don't do.
That's something hard, I think, for especially for new leaders with
Mhm.
the taking calculated risk, because even making decisions, it becomes hard, and it is a muscle that you have to start practicing. Like you can start small by just
Mhm.
making this small decision that doesn't really have any like negative, and it, if it goes good, it's good. If it goes bad, it's not that big of a deal. And I think, you just like build that muscle over time. And I I never heard of the violin and cheese. Is that what you said? Cheese?
That's when I went. Yeah, I can't even remember which friend told me this, but when I did have my moment where I wasn't in my leadership role later on in the evening, I was talking to a friend and I was then took the moment since I had to transition and I was just like, this is how I'm feeling. And I was really emotional. And I was like months into this healing process. So this person listened to me, thankfully, listened to me a lot. And finally, she goes, Melissa, would you like some cheese and wine and a violin with that? And I paused because first I didn't understand, like, I didn't connect the dots. So I paused to first kind of think, what does she mean? And then I said, oh, that's like, somebody just I don't want to say complaining, but just remaining stuck. That's a good word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remaining stuck in the trauma when it had been months and still like just stuck. And so yeah, it gave me a visual of, oh my gosh, yes. Am I gonna stay in this stagnant place while the violin is playing? I have my cheese, my wine, or am I going to say enough is enough and move forward? And I love I'm jumping ahead because I know you asked me the question about, is there like a song that like gets me
Yeah.
pumped? And so I think about it because I think of the violin playing and that does, it's like, oh, woe is me. But then on the flip side, there was a song I would play on repeat, like literally almost the entire time I was getting ready in the morning. And that was Together Again by Janet Jackson. Shout out to
Mm.
Janet Jackson. I'm going to see her
Oh, are you?
next week.
Oh, amazing.
Yes. And it's Together Again. And it's
Yeah.
the beat. It made me, when I think about the lyrics, everywhere I go, every smile I see. So I think about my paternal grandmother who literally was the strongest person that I have ever known on this earth. And so those lyrics in that song, and just for the audience, in case people don't know, it says, everywhere I go, everywhere I see, I know you are there, shining down, smiling back at me.
Mm.
And she had 13 children. And her and my grandfather separated, and he moved at several states away. And so was not close to proximity of where she was. He moved to California,
Mm.
and she raised those children with the help of her mother, but that's a lot to
Yeah.
take on. And so it reminded me, like, I have her DNA. That DNA is passed down. So I don't know, that song just lit a fire in me. And I would I don't care how I was feeling when I would turn that on, I would just start dancing. And I'm like, yes,
Hmm.
she's with me.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, so I think the
Yeah.
listeners know that. Think about that person that has inspired you, and just know, you can never give up. Don't give up. I'm so passionate about that. And I'm passionate about it, Michelle, just so I can be vulnerable and transparent. There was a time where I went through that moment and I was like, man, I don't even want to be here anymore.
Mm. Yeah.
And so to think about that now and think about what I have birthed, if you will, after that has been tremendous. I birthed a ministry where I have retreats, and people who have experienced trauma that they haven't completely healed from come to the retreats, and I get to see them cry and laugh and thank me. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I just think, what if I would not have made the choice to be brave and do what I needed to do to heal from that? I wouldn't be here to experience the so many lives now that I have touched through my story. So remember, whatever we go through, it's not for us. I really believe it's not for us. It's for us to help someone else. And
Mm.
so it did it feel good? No. But now I say it's the hurt that helped, because now I get to help thousands and thousands of people through their healing journey from trauma. And I wouldn't have done that if I wouldn't have gone through my own.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that, Melissa. I appreciate you opening up to the audience about that. With your retreats, is there something you focus on at the retreats that might help the listeners? Or is it really just essentially what we've talked about here?
Of course, that because we do so many activities at the retreats, because I want people to, like, when I say feel, like, we do physical activities where they feel it. I believe words have no weight to them, but they do. And I hope people caught that. I know that's an oxymoron. So we do exercises like they have to put bricks in, whether it's a backpack, whatever, and they have to carry that around. So whatever they're holding on to, and we don't tell them, of course, beforehand. We go through this lovely exercise with the licensed counselor, and they write down all these things that they feel are weighing them down. And then after they finish that list, whether it's 5, whether it's 20, they get a brick for each one,
Mm.
and they carry that. And I believe when we think about life like that and what we choose to carry instead of letting go and healing, it that's putting the rubber to the road, because you have to carry that. And I
Yeah.
really want the viewers to imagine that. Whatever you're carrying, think about if you had a backpack each day after you finish getting dressed for work and you have to throw that backpack on. How much weight do you carry around?
Mhm.
And we don't have to. We don't have to at all. So yeah, I'm all about the healing. That's why I love the retreats. We
Yeah.
get personal. I attend everyone. Obviously, I'm there. I'm active just like all the attendees. So that's my definitely my passion.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said too for that. I know we talked a little bit about you getting away on your own to avoid the voices, but when you're with people that are actually experiencing so, not necessarily the same thing that you experienced, but feeling the same like aftermath of going through that trauma, I'm sure there's like a huge benefit to being around other people that understand.
Absolutely. And we all need, if you will, this is my corporate hat I'm putting on, your board of directors. You
Mm.
need people who can lift you up, not tear you down. Be honest with you though, because again, I'm a biblical scholar. The Bible says the truth makes us free. Not love, but the truth. So yes, we are to love, but if you love someone, you'll tell them the truth. In love, don't tear them down. And like I'm gonna use my glasses for an example. I have a ton of glasses, and because I like coordinating.
Yeah.
And so somebody may say, "Oh, Melissa, I do not like your glasses," or they can change the verbiage of that and say, "You have so many glasses. That's not maybe one of my favorite pairs, but I love your look." And so you see how you can take something and you're still being honest with the person, but you're not doing it in a way to tear them down. And so you definitely have to find your board of directors. And then also, oh my goodness, you just made me think of something, Michelle. I'm loving this. So thank you for this. I have to give a shout out. This is another Brene Brown. Um, I learned this from Brene Brown and Justin Faulkner. I have to give Justine, sorry, Justine, if you
Oh,
ever listen to this. Because I learned this through Justine, which is by way of Brene Brown. You have to really, we focus on things and people, honestly, that we really shouldn't focus on. I don't know where that comes from in life to just want to please. I don't know. And social media doesn't make it any better because we go by how many likes do I have? How many followers do I have? But
hmm.
I was taught like who's in the arena with you? And the example that Justine used was, think of gladiators when they would get into the arena. You have the cheap seats. So those are reserved for those who are always hurling advice, judgment, and criticism, but rarely step into the arena. They're not in the arena. Then you have the season ticket holders. Those are um those are who compare and shame and always show up when we're trying to be brave. You have the box seats. Those are typically the people who built the arena to benefit themselves. And then you have the support section. And that's the two most important seats in the arena, which are empathy and self-compassion.
Hmm.
So we have to be aware of the different sections in the arena and those individuals and know where they are. Are you really allowing people who like are in the cheap seats, who are always judging, always hurling criticism? Like, let it go.
Yeah.
Like, do they really matter? Does their opinion really matter? No. So find a good board of directors, and most of those come from that support section in the arena, because a lot of people who are going to say negative things, who are going to discount your feelings, whether valid or not, they're not even in the arena with you.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
not. So yeah.
But I love that analogy, and it's so interesting because if you think about it, people that are playing sports are used to this because they're dealing with this all the time. I'm sure it's hard. They probably develop a muscle for understanding like there are people that are just going to be critical and haters, and
Mhm.
they find a way to like block those voices and focus on the people that are supporting them. But I think, us outside of that world, it's not, it's not like in our faces all the time. So it becomes harder to understand when it's happening and understand like how we're reacting to it. So I love that, and hopefully people will like play that over and over, because you have to follow what you feel is true to who you are and what you want from life. And it people have different experiences, like you said earlier, in life, and are coming from different places and don't always have the same intentions. And I think, I mean, even I run into that sometimes, where you just want to believe the best in people and that you want to believe that everybody looks at humans the same way you do
Yeah.
with the empathy
Yeah.
and understanding, but that's not the case. And you have to go through life knowing that, not to be cynical in life,
Hmm.
but understand when that's happening and like be able to
Yeah.
take space from that.
Yeah, that is great. Ironically, my son-in-law plays professional football,
Mm.
and sometimes I'm telling you, I like to be away in the suites. I like being up close and personal too, but the comments
Yeah.
that I hear sometimes is so disheartening because they will say things at these players that is just despicable. And so to your point, those people, those are and these aren't the cheap seats because I'm
Right.
usually close, but you get the point.
Right.
But I think you're not even on the field.
Hmm.
Like, could you even and for football especially, not knocking or discounting any other sport, but football is a very physically very contact sport. And so I hear these comments and I think you go suit up and get in there. Like you're not
Mm.
even on the field. You have no clue what players endure. And so, yeah, and so I think you're right for athletes. And sometimes I'm amazed because I'll see some of the athletes maybe turn their head and they may shake their head and smile. Because you're right, they're in the arena, if you will, on that football field, and they're so used to it.
Hmm.
But people like you and I who don't play professional football, we have to, we're on a field, but we're on the field of life, and we have to still learn those same strengths, learn how to just shut out the noise because people have not walked in our shoes.
Hmm.
And I believe that's why I'm so empathetic. And I when I see people, especially even if I see someone strung out on drugs, I don't know, alcoholic, my first thought isn't to throw that stone. My first thought is, man, I wonder what happened in their life that caused them to take whatever vice that was to that level where now they ended up here.
Yeah.
And so we have to be careful because we have not walked in one another's shoes. No, nor are we set up the same.
Yeah.
So who are we to judge? I'm just thankful that I was able to take control back of my life where I didn't end up like that.
Yeah. So true. You talked a little bit about a personal, or you talked about a board of advisors, like for everybody should have one. And, that's something we talk about a lot is like having the mentorship, the sponsorship, the network, have of course, your hype squad. That's what we're all about on this podcast. And we have like a mini course that we put out, like how do you develop who should be on your board and what that should look like, how do you approach them and how do you nurture that. But part of that is having a mentor. And did you do you have a mentor or did you have a mentor that made a big difference in your life?
You know what? I don't have like just one mentor. My mentors just came from season to season. So just depending, and also if they were qualified. We have to understand everybody's not qualified to lead us or be our mentor in certain situations. And so I really just, of course, my paternal grandmother,
Yeah.
God rest her soul. She didn't even know she was my mentor, right? She was my grandmother. It's not like I said, "Hey, grandma, I really need this mentor in life because, I have this trauma and I know you've overcome some stuff." But she was because of how she lived her life, which
Hmm.
is why I definitely just want to live my life the best I can. I tell my kids, it's not about the date I was born. It's not even going to be the date when I die. I want my dash to mean something. Like, what is my dash going to mean? So, yeah, that was a long answer, but I haven't had one mentor. I just glean from people who I believe are exceptional leaders, have great integrity, have character. And I just, yeah, become friends with those people. And I watch when I have questions, I ask.
Yeah. What would you say is the best leadership advice you've ever received?
Ooh, do not compromise your values.
Mm.
Do not. It's so easy to do too. I mean, oh, especially when I was younger in my career, because you're like, okay, I want to be there, and and you want to go with the flow sometimes, but never compromise your values. If it's gonna be, it'll be.
Mm.
If it's meant to be, it'll be. And that's I live by that. I live by whatever doors I should walk through. God open up those doors for me. Doors that I shouldn't, he'll close them. And it's all about perspective. So anytime I believed I wanted something and it didn't happen, instead of saying, oh man, I knew I should have got that, I'm qualified, or saying, oh, whatever we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel worse than we did before or make ourselves upset, I said, oh, it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And I think if we look at life like that, we'll have so much more peace. I mean, I even do it if I'm in traffic, and I do not like traffic. Anybody knows me. But I take those moments to say, maybe God was preventing me from getting into an accident. Maybe
Yeah.
if I wouldn't have been stuck here. And so it's just changing your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to look at that. Yeah. I do. Does anybody like traffic? I don't know. I guess maybe some people do. If they get their podcast listening in while they're sitting in the
Yes.
traffic. I know you talked a little bit about your morning routine of coffee and your journaling and your devotion. Are there any other routines you have during the day that you attribute your well-being to?
That's definitely the foundation. And believe it or not, even though my book was released, man, we're coming up on a year,
Wow.
May 5th of 2022, I still find myself flipping through and reading my own advice that I gave to people, because it keeps me grounded. And if I may, shameless plug
Oh, no, of
for
course.
the listeners, the name of my book is Claim Your Comeback, Begin Your Journey to Healing and Wholeness. And in that book, I give people the blueprint I use to heal from my trauma. And even though I wrote the book, I can't tell you how many times I've read it, because you know how that process goes before it's released. I still find myself going back to take my own advice, just as a reminder to say, oh yeah, that's what I should do in a situation like this. So I literally have a copy of my book, I think, everywhere that I typically am: in my vehicle, my office. I keep one in my bedroom just in case something like I have, yeah, my books everywhere.
Yeah.
And I will reference my own advice to myself throughout the day.
Well, that's when you know it's good advice if you're continuing to go back yourself. Do you have an
So,
audio book version of the book?
not yet.
Okay.
I'm hoping to get one.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting. I assumed you had to have like a big studio to do that, but I have a friend that did it, wrote a book, published it, and recorded the audio version themselves. And I mean, all of it was like under $180, like everything that they
Wow.
spent. And I said, well, and how in the world did you do the audio version then? You didn't have to like rent a studio. And they just had really quality equipment, and the way they had the room set up, they were able to get like it, and it was great quality because I listened to part of it. Or we were at a get together where he played part of it. But
Oh,
yeah, so if you, I mean, if that's, I don't know if that's one of your holdbacks, I would
it
say
is.
there are ways to get around that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, because I was thinking like you could be in your car and you could be listening to yourself as well. That could be really interesting.
You're smart, Michelle. I need to get on that.
So we really like to help support the quality of our listeners' lives. And one of the things we started asking was if our guests have purchased anything like under $100 or like around that, that has kind of greatly improved or made a difference in their lives. Do you have something that you would recommend?
Wow, a book by Stephen M.R. Covey, for all the readers out there. I believe leaders are readers, so
Yeah.
I'm a reader. And he has a book called The Speed of Trust,
Mhm.
and it is phenomenal. That's another one I try to tote around with me. Like literally, I'll throw it in my purse and make sure it's in my vehicle. So anytime I have 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, because again, he talks about in one section, he talks about integrity and character kind of being the root of a tree. And he breaks down the different sections of a tree. And it's just incredible. And if we, man, if you just trusted yourself, first off, I think some of us aren't good at trusting others because we haven't even forgiven ourselves for things.
Mm.
I think this world would be such a better and happier place. I know one more story, and then I promise I'm done with the
No, of
stories.
course.
But when I said that, I think about this gentleman. I think he was in New York, if I recall. He had a hot dog stand, and it was just him, one man show. And so he would come up, bring his cart out, set up his hot dog stand. And he was, I mean, they were great. So he would have these long lines, but people were getting frustrated and he was losing business because the line was so long and it was taking forever. And, especially in New York, people are moving fast. They
Yeah.
want their hot dog and go. And he noticed that. And I thought what he did was incredible. And I learned of this story when I was going through my healing. What he did, he just left out like this jar where people, and not just a jar, I don't know what it was, but something they can put their money in. And he just left it out there. And so instead of him having to collect money, put gloves back on, fix the hot dog, all this stuff, he focused on fixing the hot dogs how they wanted it. And he trusted them to put the money in the container. If they wanted to take the change, to take the change. And in that, his business boomed. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. And that's with money. And he even made more because what he found, some people didn't even want the change.
Yeah.
If their total came to 453, they were putting $5 in there and gone. So I believe when I saw his story, it was incredible. And I'm like, wow, the power of trust. We would, and not just monetary, he made more money, but I think it's such a bigger lesson in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a great book. We have that on our books we recommend list. It's and trust is so important. And yeah,
Yes.
there's a few books that we have that we definitely recommend offline. But well, and don't apologize for your stories. I mean, stories, I love stories. Like, I love when people share stories. So thank you so much. But I know we've kind of come to the end of our time here, unfortunately.
I
So it's
know.
been
I
a
love
great,
this.
it's been such a great
Sweet
conversation.
Michelle. Thank you.
So I'd love for you to kind of maybe leave your last minute words of advice for new leaders that you want to leave with. And then if you could share, if it's okay for listeners to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you? Like, where's the best place for them to find you?
Absolutely. If I may, and this isn't Melissa, so let me disclose that, but I'm going to leave the listeners with this again from one of my faves, Brene Brown. A leader is anyone at any level who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes and has the courage to develop that potential.
Hmm.
So remember that you don't have to have a certain title. Many times I don't even give my title because I think people, they will start to categorize you.
Yeah.
And I want people to treat me with respect and dignity because I'm Melissa, not because I have this vice president title in front of my name, not because I'm an international best-selling author, but because I'm Melissa. So know that you don't have to have a title. You don't have to have multiple degrees. You don't have to have a degree. You can be a leader. Just know that you just have to take responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes that has the courage to develop that potential. So I'll leave that with them. And then, I would love to connect. So I have IG, Instagram, and that is I am Melissa L. Jones. So that's my IG handle. I am Melissa L. Jones. And check me out. I try to stay relevant, especially when I'm in the studio, because I do radio too. And then also oh God, my kids tell me Facebook is for older people now. So I don't know, I'm older. You can check me out on Facebook. I'm simply Melissa Jones on Facebook.
Okay.
And so, check me out. You can check out my website for my ministry. My ministry's name is Living Healed Ministries. Obviously, the title, we're all about helping people heal from whatever trauma so they can live the life that we all were called to live. And that's a great life, not a life to suffer. So check out Living Healed Ministries. That is www.livinghealedministries.com. And on there, you'll find information about my retreats and everything that I get the opportunity to do. I get to go serve. So
Perfect. And your book again is called?
It's called Claim Your Comeback, Your Journey to Healing and Wholeness. And you can get that on Amazon.
Great. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you've shared. I appreciate your vulnerability. It's been a wonderful conversation. And I wish we could keep going, but hopefully we keep in touch and we can talk again in the future.
Absolutely. And thank you, Michelle. Thank you for stepping into your calling. Like, this is a true calling. And so thank you for stepping out the boat, if you will. I think, and again, biblical analogy, but I think it's scary to step out the boat and really step into your calling. So thank you for being brave and courageous and doing that, because it's not easy. I've been there. So thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. Allow your light to shine. Your listeners are so blessed. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that. Well, have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Michelle again. If you enjoyed this conversation, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on our weekly episodes. And if you're really feeling it, please leave a review. We'd love to have your support. You can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, where we share things we're excited about, things we found funny or inspiring, and must-read leadership videos and articles we came across that week. You can subscribe by going to www.thebosstrack.com/weekly joy. That's www.thebosstrack.com/weekly joy. Drop in your email and you'll get the very next one. Thanks for listening.